The SEC used to be crypto's sworn enemy, stifling innovation at every turn. However, this is no longer the case. The SEC has done a complete 180 and is now actively encouraging crypto innovation. And just recently, the SEC unveiled Project Crypto, a groundbreaking initiative that could bring the entire financial system on-chain. And that's why today we're going to do a deep dive into Project Crypto, telling you what it's all about, which cryptos could benefit, and how it could impact the crypto market. My name is Nick, and you're watching The Coin Bureau. Before we begin, you need to know that I am not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video should be considered financial or investment advice. This video is purely educational and intended to inform you about the SEC's recent crypto regulation plans. And if you want more content like this, then why not punch those like and subscribe buttons and drop kick that notification bell too, so you don't miss our next one. Now, crypto's regulatory backdrop has been growing steadily more bullish since the start of the year. The biggest reason for this has been the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, which is becoming more crypto-friendly by the day. But it's easy to forget that not too long ago, the SEC's attitude towards crypto was very different. Now, to bring you up to speed, the SEC's responsibility is to regulate securities like stocks and bonds. Under the reign of former chairman Gary Gensler, the SEC consistently asserted that almost every cryptocurrency was an unregistered security except for Bitcoin, which was the only crypto that Gensler publicly described as a commodity. Under Gensler's reign, the SEC explicitly labeled 69 cryptos as securities, including top altcoins like BNB, Solana, Cardano, Near Protocol, Polygon, Algorand, Cosmos, and Filecoin. However, everything changed when Gensler stepped down in January. Almost immediately, the remaining SEC staff began reversing the regulator's stance on crypto. Rather than opposing innovation, the regulators started exploring ways to support the industry, beginning with dismissing multiple lawsuits filed under Gensler's reign. Steering the ship now is new SEC Chairman Paul Atkins, who was nominated by President Trump in December 2024 and was officially sworn into the role in April this year. What's truly mind-blowing is that Atkins seems to have the complete opposite mindset to Gensler when it comes to crypto regulation. And that's because Atkins is hyper-focused on providing something that crypto has been desperate for: regulatory clarity. According to him, the SEC is now actively working on, quote, clear guidelines that market participants can use to determine whether a crypto asset is a security. Hallelujah. To say that this is bullish would be an understatement. For years, crypto projects have operated under the looming threat of a potential lawsuit due to the SEC's refusal to provide regulatory clarity. The resulting uncertainty severely limited what many developers felt comfortable building, as they feared triggering regulatory scrutiny at any moment. Having clear, lenient regulations finally gives these projects the freedom to innovate. And this new leniency shouldn't be understated. To play devil's advocate, one could argue that many altcoins do in fact qualify as securities under the Howey test, not naming names, of course. However, the SEC's new approach highlights just how lenient it plans to be moving forward, offering a welcome sigh of relief to many projects and investors. Now, to underscore the SEC's shifting stance on crypto, current chairman Paul Atkins recently delivered a speech unveiling, quote, Project Crypto, which outlines the agency's approach moving forward. We leave a link to the full speech in the description below. It's well worth a watch if you have the time. For now, though, here's the key highlights. Atkins began by acknowledging that the SEC's playbook is outdated and called for revamped rules. Through Project Crypto, the SEC aims to create a clear, modern framework that keeps crypto companies in the US instead of pushing them overseas for friendlier regulations. To that end, the SEC plans to collaborate with other agencies to implement recommendations from the President's Working Group on Digital Asset Markets report, a 166-page document with clear recommendations for agencies to create a regulatory framework for crypto. Atkins described it as, quote, the blueprint to make America first in blockchain and crypto technology. Anyway, Atkins revealed that Project Crypto will work towards 5 key initiatives, the first of which involves bringing crypto asset distribution back to America. In his words, quote, "The days of convoluted offshore corporate structures, decentralization theater, and confusion over security status are over." He then delivered the most bullish line of the entire speech. Quote, "Despite what the SEC has said in the past, most cryptocurrencies or crypto assets are not securities." Yeah, how do you like them apples, Gary? Taste good, don't they? Anyway, Atkins also said that he directed staff to help crypto market participants easily identify if a crypto or transaction qualifies as a security or investment contract. However, he did add that, quote, "It should not be a scarlet letter to be deemed a security. We need a regulatory framework for crypto asset securities that allows these products to flourish." He explained that many issuers prefer securities for their flexibility, while investors benefit from features like distributions and voting rights. Atkins then turned to tokenized assets. He acknowledged that Wall Street and Silicon Valley are desperate for tokenization and said the SEC will work closely with them to make it happen. And this is huge news for cryptos focusing on tokenized real-world assets or RWAs, but more on that later. Now, a second focus of the Project Crypto initiative is to modernize crypto custody regulations for both self-custody and custodial intermediaries. Atkins explained, quote, "I believe deeply in the right to use a self-custodial digital wallet to maintain personal crypto assets and participate in on-chain activities like staking." And that reminds me, if you're looking for the best ways to trade and stake cryptocurrency, then you need to check out the Coin Bureau deals page. That is where you will find sign-up bonuses of up to $100,000 on the best crypto exchanges. You'll also get 50% trading fee discounts and, get this, 75% cashbacks on those deposits. Now, these deals, well, they won't be around for long, and they are only available to Coin Bureau viewers. So if you want to take advantage of them, hit the link down in the description or scan this QR code. Back to the video. Next, Atkins added that some investors still prefer to rely on SEC-regulated intermediaries to hold crypto on their behalf, and said, quote, "It will be a priority of my chairmanship to carry out the PWG's report recommendations to modernize the SEC's custody requirements for registered intermediaries." Notably, he said that market participants shouldn't be regulated for regulation's sake. In his words, quote, "I'm in favor of affording them the freedom to choose the most efficient regulatory framework for their business, provided that framework adequately protects investors." If you watched our previous videos on Paul Atkins, you'll know that this makes perfect sense because he's an outspoken libertarian. He believes that regulations should be minimal, and the free market will self-regulate. And you can learn more about the new SEC chair by checking out said video right over here. But back to Project Crypto. For its third initiative, Atkins declared that, quote, "A key priority of my chairmanship is to allow market participants to innovate with super apps. Put simply, regulators will work together to create a unified framework letting intermediaries offer multiple products and services under one single license." Meanwhile, Project Crypto's fourth initiative focuses on updating outdated agency rules that cover both centralized and decentralized protocols benefiting US securities markets, including heavily decentralized ones with a single operator. Regarding this initiative, Atkins added that the SEC should protect code publishers, distinguish between intermediated and disintermediated activity, and integrate DeFi and on-chain protocols into America's markets instead of excluding them with needless regulations. And finally, Project Crypto's fifth initiative is to create a so-called innovation exemption, allowing new crypto projects and businesses to launch without first needing full compliance with outdated or incompatible rules. To be clear, the SEC will still enforce key conditions, but projects will mainly follow principle-based guidelines that meet the core policy aims of federal securities laws. Notably, Atkins outlined that these principles could include periodic SEC reports, whitelisting or verified pool functions, and restricting tokenized securities that lack features that integrate compliance features, such as ERC 3643, Ethereum's token standard for RWA tokenization. So then, Project Crypto sounds very bullish indeed, but the question now is, how long will it take to be fully implemented? Well, while the current SEC is working fast to undo the damage caused by Atkins' predecessor, sadly, this doesn't mean that everything will change overnight. The new SEC chairman will have to navigate through multiple challenges. Perhaps the biggest challenge in the short term is that the SEC is trying to establish new rules whilst, at the same time, Congress is actively debating legislation for crypto market structure, legislation that will determine how crypto is managed. And this could be an issue because although the House has worked proactively to pass crypto bills and introduce clear regulations, the Senate has been a bit more of a mixed bag. As you may have guessed, some of the less crypto-friendly senators are already protesting the SEC's laid-back approach, arguing that it could lead to a new era of fraud and FTX-like collapses. Some analysts believe Project Crypto will take years, not months, to roll out. Crypto lawyer Jake Shavinsky, chief legal officer at the Variant Fund, predicts about 3.5 years for full implementation, and urges the crypto community to collaborate with the SEC to achieve lasting regulatory clarity. And this means that Project Crypto would be completed by 2028. Now, obviously, this is a long time away, especially in crypto years, which, let's face it, ages us about 10 times faster than normal years do. But the good news is that some changes and interim guidance will begin much sooner. The SEC plans to provide exemptive relief and interpretive guidance in the coming months, so market participants will see phased progress and early policy changes well before the final rollout is completed. And there is also the chance that Project Crypto could be finalized much sooner than 2028, and that's simply because of how determined the current Trump administration has been to reshape the regulatory landscape for crypto in the US so far. Remember, Trump is a politician who wants to impress and retain voters. With the next presidential election in November 2028, he'll likely want Project Crypto wrapped up well before then, if only to brag about it during his campaign. But hey, we still have a long way to go before then, so let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Now, this begs the question of which cryptos could benefit most from Project Crypto. The simple answer is most, if not all. And that's because as regulations improve and innovation thrives, more investors will enter the market and also venture further out down the risk curve to find the most cutting-edge crypto projects and protocols. That said, there are some crypto narratives that will benefit from Project Crypto more than others, and it seems that the biggest one will be tokenized RWAs. It's clear that Paul Atkins and the SEC are hyper-aware of the demand for tokenized stocks, bonds, equities, and other securities, and how these products could benefit the American economy. As such, tokenized RWA cryptos could see serious institutional adoption once Project Crypto's regulations are ironed out, and this includes cryptos like Ethereum, which holds the lion's share in the RWA market at around 54%. It also includes cryptos like ZK Sync Era, which has the second largest market share, as well as Aptos, Solana, Stellar, and Polygon, to name but a few. But it's not just RWA cryptos. The announcement of Project Crypto also outlined a clear vision to create regulatory frameworks that benefit any crypto narrative with lots of on-chain activity. The elephant in the room here is, of course, DeFi, which includes cryptos like Hyperliquid's Hype, Uniswap's Uni, Aave's Aave, and many more. It wouldn't be too far-fetched to assume that some of the cryptos that could benefit most will be those that have ties to members of the Trump administration and to Trump himself. And this includes Bitcoin, due to its use in the strategic Bitcoin reserve, as well as various altcoins included in the government's digital asset stockpile. While the full list of cryptos in the digital asset stockpile is currently unknown, we do know that it includes Ethereum's ETH, Solana's Sol, Ripple's XRP, and Cardano's ADA, at least according to Trump's posts. And of course, Trump has a few crypto projects of his own that could benefit greatly from Project Crypto. And these include World Liberty Financial, the DeFi protocol that's backed by his sons. A USD1, the stablecoin issued by World Liberty Financial, could also see much wider use as a result. And we'd be remiss not to mention the Trump meme coin, which could likewise see massive benefits as crypto regulations in the US continue to improve, especially after the SEC declared that most meme coins are not securities earlier this year. And this positions the Trump token for a potential rally, but just don't check what it looks like right now. You'll be disappointed. Now, this is all well and good, but what if things don't go as smoothly as everyone thinks? In other words, what could possibly go wrong? Well, as much as Project Crypto is bullish on paper, there is a risk that it could end up being bearish. While Project Crypto aims to provide regulatory clarity and support innovation in the crypto market, there are legitimate concerns that a significantly relaxed regulatory approach would introduce new risks if not carefully managed. And these risks include an increased potential for fraud, scams, and market manipulation, reminiscent of the Wild West scenario that regulation is meant to prevent. As such, one could argue that a better approach would be to focus on a more balanced, phased, and coordinated regulatory framework, one that still encourages innovation but maintains investor protection and ensures market integrity. Put simply, the SEC could opt to roll out new rules in incremental, well-defined steps rather than taking its current approach of minimal oversight and intervention. Naturally, this would mean that regulations would take longer to develop, but it would likely leave less room for bad actors to harm investors and ensure any resulting crypto rally is more sustainable. The caveat is that the SEC technically isn't taking a completely hands-off approach. Ultimately, they still have a job to do and will actively pursue bad actors in the crypto space. And this is something that SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce has made perfectly clear. If you watched our roundup of this year's Bitcoin conference, you'll know that Peirce underscored that while some people now seem to believe that they can safely engage in fraudulent activity, the SEC will not hesitate to use its enforcement tools when clear rules are being violated. And in case you missed this year's Bitcoin conference, don't worry, we've got a video on that right over here. And if you want to learn about who could potentially replace Jerome Powell as the new Fed chairman, we've got a video right here. Now, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to subscribe, and you can do that right over here. That's all for me. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.